Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery. I talk about it a lot in these videos, and whenever I talk about recovery, that recovery is about growth, it's about change, and it's a lifelong process, and it's a daily process, and it's something that I have had to fully embrace in my life in order to achieve any kind of progress in recovery. In my addiction, I didn't want change, and I fought against change, and that brought me a lot of misery and kept me in the same place that I was for years and years and years. And in order for me to stay sober, in order for me to get drugs and alcohol out of my life, in order for even the desire for drugs and alcohol to go away, I had to learn to love change and evolution. And that's what Tommy Rosen talks about today in Recovery 2.0. I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs and then talk about the way this feels when I put it in practice with a program of recovery. Tommy says, evolution is a natural part of life. We are changing constantly. Our bodies change, our ideas and beliefs change. We learn and grow. That is why we've come here. The sacred and unique life path that each of us chooses will have many differences, but all of us are built to evolve through the circumstances of our lives. If we do not evolve, it's painful. Energy is meant to flow, not stagnate. Stuck energy becomes a disease. This has been playing out for a long time. It's all around us. Addiction is an example of abject stagnation. Caught in its grasp, we construct a false story and make it our world. We think for sure we are on the right track, but we hang on too tight and for too long. The promise of comfort turns into the certainty of pain. Some of us have lost our minds along the way. Many of us have died. So when I first came into recovery, I was in a situation where I was fighting against all sorts of evidence that I needed to change. And one of the easiest ways to fight against that is by coming up with all sorts of reasons that the world around you actually is what needs to change. And that's the way I approached most of these things in my life. Whenever I felt pain, I looked at the world around me and said, the world needs to change in order for me not to feel this pain. I never looked at the pain I felt I never really looked at the source of the pain. And if you think about it, the source of your pain is you. The world around you doesn't cause pain to you. That pain comes from inside of you. And so the question is really not what does the world need to do to change, but how do you need to change the way you respond to the world? Now, this isn't to devalue the pain that people feel. People feel justified pain for all sorts of different reasons. But the issue that I had was that I would feel pain, for instance, stress due to the way things were happening at work, and not look at what can I do to change my response to this, and just hope and wish and get frustrated that things at work weren't changing. And that's not a constructive way to deal with things. And so what I've had to learn in recovery is that I have to approach life with an open mind in terms of the growth and evolution that's required of me to maintain my sanity, to maintain peace of mind, and also to maintain sobriety. And that's been the big one. I have to recognize early on in my program of recovery that sobriety is not possible unless I'm willing to constantly change in life and constantly learn and constantly grow. So that's become a bedrock of my program of recovery, is willingness to constantly grow. When I first went through the 12 steps, when I got done going through the 12 steps, my initial thinking, my initial understanding was that was it. I'd be good to go. And I wouldn't have any more problems after that. And very quickly it became clear, even before I finished going through the 12 steps, that that's not the nature of this program of recovery. That a program of recovery, and indeed any kind of spiritual program in life, teaches you not how to fix things and then move on as a happy person, but teaches you how to grow on a daily basis. When you ask me what spirituality is, that's really what I equate it to. I equate it to growth. That means that with spirituality comes fear. You know, there's times where I face a moment of growth, where I face a moment where I know I need to do something that I really don't want to do, that fear comes up. And I'm very fortunate that the program of AA, 12-step programs, teach you different ways of addressing that fear, of looking at that fear, and of dealing with that fear when it does come up. Because fear is also a natural part of life. And and I have to look at all of these emotions that come up as I go through life as teachers. I used to avoid the emotions that I didn't like. And if I can shift that perspective a little bit and start looking at those emotions as teachers and saying, what can I learn from this emotion that I'm feeling? Then that really contributes to the growth that I'm trying to maintain during my recovery. Growth and recovery, I feel like, are one and the same. You know, recovery, and it's a little bit of a misnomer sometimes, because recovery makes it seem like you do something and you get better and then you're done and then you're better. And really what you're recovering is your ability to live, and to live a well-lived life. And in my opinion, living a well-lived life involves being teachable, being willing to constantly grow, and not getting stuck where you are. Getting stuck where you are is what got us into the problems that brought us to recovery. And so it's important that even if we're not drinking, I start to get to a point where there are, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to be careful with the way I say this, but at the end of the day, even on the bad days, I'm happy if I lay my head down on my pillow and I'm going to bed sober. At the same time, just being sober is no longer the goal for me in recovery. Most days I don't think about alcohol or drugs. I don't have cravings that often. I can be around them. It doesn't cause any cravings for me. So most days, the true mark of recovery for me is growth. And am I growing? Have I done something today to take me a little bit farther on this journey? Not anything crazy, just have I taken a step? And that's the important stuff I think we get into as our recovery journey goes on. But with that come emotions, and we have to deal with those emotions. And I do think that it's valuable to shift our perspective on that, because emotions are something we didn't really like a lot in addiction. We didn't like the emotions. We tried to avoid those, especially the ones that didn't feel that great. Now I try to embrace those, and when they come up, not avoid them, but look them in the eye and say, what are you here to teach me? Try to learn from that, grow from that, and in that way, it makes those emotions powerful teachers rather than powerful enemies. So that's it for today. Recovery is growth, and recovery as growth has really become my motto as I've progressed through recovery. And I think that it is one of the most important aspects of the recovery process that anyone can embrace as they go through. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with more.